Yes, starting out a few minutes late. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Sports on Broadcast, episode 38. This is our fifth live stream. Joe, how's it going?
Oh man, it's going great. Can't wait to get at it today. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's jump right into it. Well, first, let's remind everyone you can jump into the show by commenting on our Facebook feed. You can text or call by using 267-404-MYSE, and we would love to hear from some people. Of course, you can always tweet and comment on the live feed as well. So let's get right into it. There's been a lot of buzz about Richard Sherman, and reports are that he was the one who requested out, wasn't happy with some things that were going on in the sidelines during the game. First of all, Joe, does it lower his price? And second of all, should the Eagles be in pursuit?
I think anytime somebody comes out and they demand to be out, I think it ultimately hurts their value. So I would say yes. And I would say if the price is right, yeah, the Eagles should absolutely be in.
The price is
It's one
right,
of
Bob.
he's a top five corner in the league. I understand that he's 29 years old, but he's a game changer, and they need playmakers at that position. And if he's there for the right price, I think they should do anything they can do to get it done.
Here's the problem. The right price, speaking of price, he's got a $13.6 million cap hit, and I don't know if the Eagles can go out and sustain that unless they were to cut somebody or trade somebody that had another high salary cap hit. I don't think it's going to happen. I believe Howie Roseman should pursue or even just inquire, especially if the stock of Richard Sherman is coming down. Maybe you don't have to offer that first round pick, but I think it would be malpractice by the Eagles brass to not go after Richard Sherman. What do you think?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the contract, they could probably always work something out in that aspect. That they're usually pretty good when it comes to that. But if it's for a first round pick, this year's first round pick, I'm definitely not doing it. If you could do a player or two in your second round pick, I'm all for that. But you need that first round pick this year.
Agree. Be interesting to see what everyone out there thinks about Richard Sherman and should the Eagles pursue him. Let's move into another area, another headline surrounding the Eagles. It would be Bo Allen, who was slated to be the starter until they traded for Timmy Jernigan. Bo Allen suffered a pectoral injury that will require surgery and keep him out until at least training camp and most likely the preseason. So the Eagles definitely look smart in picking up Timmy Jernigan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an unfortunate injury in training, but at this point they're fortunate to have made that trade to get Timmy Jernigan in there, because at this point it would look very bad in terms of depth at that spot. So I mean, I think we'll talk a little bit more about it next week, but I think that they're going to look to draft one or two guys on the defensive line as well to get some more depth back there to begin with. Even if he was healthy, I think that they would have gone that route. So, like I said, it's unfortunate. I think he would have played a bigger role. I mean, he should be back, but now if he starts out slow, I think people will point to the injury. So he's definitely not going to get off to the start that he would have wanted. But it's good that they picked up Jernigan last week.
It's a shame because I feel like he might be behind the eight ball when it comes to practicing and training camp and everything like that. The problem is for Bo Allen, it's a contract year, and if I think he'll be great in a rotational situation, but I don't know if he's necessarily ready to become a starter. So I feel like the more reps he got in training camp and everything would really bode well for him in the future, trying to get that contract, playing out of his mind this season on a contract year. It really is unfortunate that he sustained this injury, and it's going to kind of set him back from the beginning of the process for the 2017 season.
Yeah, like I said, they're very fortunate that they made that deal for Timmy Jernigan. But I mean, no, you don't want to see that to a guy, like going into a contract year. Hopefully, he's able to get back on the field healthy at some point at the beginning of the year.
Moving into another signing for the Philadelphia Eagles, they bring in PSU, Penn State alum, Matt McGloin on a one-year deal. I guess my question for you is he a third string? Is he just an extra arm in training camp? Or is he in the backup role bouncing out Nick Foles?
I mean, I wouldn't expect him to be able to compete against Nick Foles. for the backup job. I'd be surprised if that was the case. I think at this point he's just a competing arm. But it's definitely good to have more bodies back there.
Yeah, certainly. I think he really is just an extra arm, and it could be a possibility. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year the Eagles brought in a third quarterback and then wound up going with only Wentz and Daniel after they traded Bradford. Is that correct? And then they brought
Um,
in McCarron,
well, I
AJ,
know,
or I don't know. Go ahead.
yeah, Aaron Murray.
Aaron Murray. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he was ever actually on the active roster, but I know they did bring him in. I'm pretty sure he was on the practice squad for the most of the season. But yeah, I mean, you know, I would think on game day they would probably go that same route. I mean, I don't think that, like I said, I don't think that they would have brought Nick Foles back in here to have somebody challenging for that backup spot. I think that's his spot going forward.
Right. Right. I agree with you. Well, guys, we are inching closer to the draft. We are only 15 days away now, which is pretty insane. I know next week we're going to jump into what players the Eagles should be targeting, and look, kind of rank like what position they're going to need first. But I did want to make quick mention of this before we do go to break, and that would be the fact that the Wednesday before the draft, so that is April 26th, Joe, myself, and Alex is going to be joining us, and we're going to do a live mock session where we'll be selecting for the teams, and it's going to be a really good, fun show. We're going to dive into a lot of analysis. We're going to talk about the players kind of as they come off the board in a sense. Of course, it's a mock, but it's going to be fun. So you guys are going to want to tune in. That's going to wrap up the first half of our show. We have a ton to talk about on the second half, and we will see you soon.
Support our podcast by using mysportingedge.com/Amazon to make your next online purchase.
You're listening to SE Radio, brought to you by Sporting Edge, online at mysportingedge.com. Sporting Edge. Follow us on Twitter at Sporting Edge 1 and like us on Facebook by searching Sporting Edge.
Support our podcast by using mysportingedge.com/Amazon to make your next online purchase.
You're listening to SE Radio, brought to you by Sporting Edge, online at mysportingedge.com. Sporting Edge. Follow us on Twitter at Sporting Edge 1 and like us on Facebook by searching Sporting Edge.
Hey guys, welcome back into episode 38, our fifth live broadcast for Sports On Broadcast presented by SE Radio and Sporting Edge. Let's jump right into it. We have some quick hit topics for you, or hopefully we keep them quick, Joe. The first one,
We try to keep
yeah,
it quick.
as quick as we can. The first one we're going to open with is Ben Simmons is now 100% healthy and ready for 5-on-5. Some great news coming out of the Sixers.
Yeah, now are we sure he wasn't ready a few months ago and they're just completing the same process?
Guaranteed he was ready a few months ago. Bob Cooney was posting videos all the time on Twitter, and people are like, so this guy's not really going to play. But I trust the process. I got my shirt right here.
What can you do?
That's right. What can you do?
Anyway.
That's great news, honestly. It gives us something to talk about, plus it gives us something to look forward to. I saw that report last week that he had grown 2 inches. And
that was shot down.
I got a little worried. I know it was shot down, but I got a little worried when I saw that. I'm like, dude, we don't need another big guy hurting his foot now all the time.
Not even that. Like, what are they building? The Monstars from Space Jam? Like,
exactly.
Everyone's going to be
Bunch of
7 foot, 7'2".
Yeah, that's crazy.
Our point guard's going to be 8 foot. It would be pretty insane to see how. I mean, that would be a matchup nightmare for other teams. But other than that, I mean.
Oh yeah.
All right, sticking with the Sixers, let's look at the NBA reverse standings and give them an update. So Brooklyn is there's 1 game left in the season. Brooklyn's going to finish with 20 wins. They've locked up the number 1. I can't even say the number 1 pick because it's a lottery. Stupid. But anyway, so it's Brooklyn, Phoenix with 24 wins. The LA Lakers are right in front of the Sixers with 26. 1 game remaining. The Sixers cannot catch them. But it is a must-lose tonight up in MSG against the New York Knicks because the Sixers have 28 wins. The Orlando Magic are playing the Detroit Pistons with 28 wins, which is a likely loss for them. So the Sixers need to lose to keep the better chances alive. Thoughts?
Lose the game. Thoughts? Rest. Anybody that has any kind of injury, just let him sit.
Well, that's interesting you bring
Play
that
it
up
safe.
because Dario Saric has plantar fasciitis, and they're trotting this guy out there on unlimited restriction just to say that he played 82 games. What is wrong with the Sixers? Like, who's making these calls?
This is bad coaching.
It's not bad coaching. It's bad GMing.
I would think that he has a lot to do with that himself. I think he's a very prideful player, and I think that if he's healthy enough to be out on the floor, he's going to ultimately make that decision. If he wasn't healthy enough to really play, on his minutes restrictions, I think the doctors would pull him out. But I would say that's probably something on him that he feels that he needs to play and finish out the year.
I don't know, man. Are they trying to lose respectively tonight? because I don't if his foot's hurting, just sit him.
Is that
Like,
is that what they've been doing recently, losing respectively by
uh,
getting destroyed?
no, no.
Oh,
Anyway,
man.
let's move into the NHL talk because we're trying to keep these quick, which
Yeah.
never happens.
Mhm.
So, last season, another good storyline. Steve Mason earned his career win number 200. It's pretty, I don't even, I guess impressive, I guess you could say. But the thing is, he's probably going to be gone in the offseason. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. I'd be very surprised to see him back here next year, especially after giving Neuwirth an extension. He's got to
And
get his
all the
health right.
prospects.
We got to see with that. Plus, we have the prospects. I think Stolarz would he'll finally get somewhat of a shot next year. I wouldn't expect him to be back, especially after he ripped the goaltending situation. And I think Neuwirth had some words to say as well. I didn't actually read his comments, but I know they both ripped the situation.
Yeah, we definitely have to find a goaltender in the future.
Yeah.
Something that just came to mind because I know you had offered to go to the last Flyers game of the season, and quite a few people in the city were not happy with the Flyers fans for giving a team who missed the playoffs, had a horrible second half of the season. Uh, were you one of those who stood and gave them a standing ovation, and why?
No, I
I'm going to
was.
put you on the spot.
I only watched the first period in my seats, and then I spent the next two periods at the VIP Vito's bar
Ooh,
right by
fancy.
PJ's. So I watched the game on TV at the game for the most part. Um, it wasn't one of those games where you sit at your seat and you're into it, locked in all game long. There's really no point. I mean, I saw really what I needed to see in the first period, and then we kind of just hung out and watched it on the big screen at the bar down there. But it was. I don't understand that. Even following the Flyers and being a Flyers fan, um, I don't get why you would think that it's okay to give your team an ovation at the end of the season when they've steadily underperformed the last few years. I understand you want to be faithful to your team, but at the same time you got to expect results. I think that not just with the Flyers. I think that around the city with all of our teams, we've become way too lax on expectations, and we kind of just settle for, oh, it's all right, we'll get more draft picks, or oh, it's all right, we'll retool next year,
Well,
or we believe in this guy. There's a lot of stuff where I don't think that let's say 10 years ago that would have been acceptable behavior. You know what I mean? That just doesn't fly. So
well,
no, it doesn't fly with me.
here's the thing. You're going to the game. What do you expect? Like, what are you supposed to do? You're going to sit on your hands? Like, if the Flyers score, you're going to cheer. So, I don't understand the mentality of people that are saying, go out there and boo them. That doesn't make sense. If you want to make a statement, don't show up to the game.
Right.
But, I mean, the arena was sold out, and it probably would have been sold out whether you had gone, whether anyone had gone. Someone's going to sell their tickets because it's the last game of the season. People
Right.
are proud to be a Flyers fan. It
Well,
is what
and
it
then
is. They're loyal to a fault. But the thing is, when you go to a game, you're not supposed to boo your team. You're supposed to cheer for them, unless
right.
they're. That would be contradictory. So I'll just leave that
I,
point off.
yeah. Obviously, if they score a goal, you're gonna cheer. But it's just the fact that you have a standing O at the end of the game. That's absurd.
Yeah, that was
Um,
a little odd.
That's ridiculous, is what it is. It's ridiculous. But yeah, you're going down there. The game's going to be sold out because the tickets are going to be half the price, considering a face value of a decent seat is over $100, which is a joke, especially with the product has been the last few years. And to go down there and enjoy Sunday. It was a nice weekend. I'm sure some people did the back-to-backs on Saturday and Sunday between the Phillies and the Flyers
Yep.
games. It was definitely a good atmosphere to be down there, but standing up and giving a standing O in that spot doesn't make sense at all.
You know what though? We say that, and I'm trying to think back to the Eagles game. Everyone was cheering during the game. Yeah, it was meaningless. They were playing Dallas. That's always great. But I'm pretty sure at the end of the game, because the Eagles had won, everyone was satisfied. They were happy, and I'm pretty sure there were a couple people that stuck around. Well, I would say a majority of the fan base stuck around to see the teams clear the field and all that. Like, I don't know. I feel like it would be an awkward situation, and I feel people are drug in when there's a standing ovation going on, you're supposed to stand up. Like, you're not going to be that guy who sits down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I would say, I know that we didn't think that they were a playoff team, but realistically, if you look at what they did, they were a playoff team last year, so they should have been in. On paper, they should have been in this year or been right there. When realistically, they only had one good stretch throughout this season, and that was in December.
Yep.
So, I mean, you look at the Eagles, and basically this whole season was about getting Carson Wentz's feet wet and improving towards the future. I mean, this season you can look as a failure considering they've been a playoff team. They've been established. They had veterans that fell short this year. Jake Voracek didn't show up. Giroux didn't show up. I mean, it really was in all aspects a failure. I know that we can sit here and say, we didn't expect them to get in, but it's still a step back. They were a playoff team last year. They should have been able to pull it off this season.
I guess what I'm saying.
I don't think that team. That there's different reasons for different sports, but there's really no. You can't tell me there's a good reason to give a standing ovation at the end of a game like that.
No. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not defending the product. I'm defending the fan who went to the game and decided to cheer them. I feel like you get stuck in the situation and there's nothing else to do but cheer for the team that you know and love, especially when look at the entire city. I mean, the entire city is in tankathon mode and we're trying to retool. There's one thing, at least the Flyers, they didn't make the playoffs. Okay, I understand that. But they did go out there and give better effort than I would say the other teams in the city in the past season.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
All right, let's move on. Too much Flyers talk. Jumping into the Phillies, they were at 500, which is their goal this season. They are now 3-5, 3-6, something like that. Anyway, they had a solid series against the Nationals. They came back in game 1. They were down 7-0. They came back 7-6. They didn't win. The second game, they put up 17 runs. I know you were at that game. I'm sure that was exciting. Thoughts so far as they dropped the last two to the Mets?
Well, last night was
brutal.
Last night was tough. Yeah. Last night was tough. I think I heard today on the radio that was the third time the Mets have hit 7 or more home runs at Citizens Bank Park.
Oh my God!
The Phillies haven't done that once. The Mets haven't even done that at Shea Stadium or their new stadium. So there's that.
Cespedes hits a home run every time he plays us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the other night they should have won. I mean, Ramos, there's no excuse for that in this type of game. Your tie ball game, and you have. I want to say it's 18 straight division games. Going into that game, and that's just a foolish mistake in my opinion. I don't know why you would do that from something that happened last year when you were out of it. I understand. You're annoyed at the guy.
Hey, the bat flip was a little excessive though.
Yeah, but you can't really point fingers at bat flips when you have the king of the bat flip.
It's
in your
just
own
baseball policing its
Herrera.
own game, though.
Yeah, it's just not the spot for it, dude.
Oh no. Okay.
If that would have happened earlier in the game when the Phillies had a 2-run lead, yeah, I'd have been fine with it. But you don't do that in the 8th inning when you're tied 2-2 and you're trying to win the ball game. It's not the right spot for it.
Agreed.
But I think so far they've played a bit inconsistent, which we have expected. They're a bit of a younger ball club. I'm really impressed with Howie Kendrick so far. He's had a great start to the year. There's a couple other guys like Herrera's had a pretty good start to the year. Galvis has been impressive, especially at the plate, which is
Cesar has come up clutch a few times as well.
Yeah, I know Freddie Galvis hit 20 home runs last year, but he's been showing that he can hit the ball to all parts of the field this season so far anyway. So that's a bit intriguing. Hopefully, if he could, he's actually one of those names that I want to keep bringing up because I feel like with Crawford, in AAA, I feel like if Freddie Galvis is able to play average up until the trade deadline, they could get a decent value back for him. So that's something to look at, and it was nice to see a few of those young guys really get their feet wet and get a couple couple of big hits for the ball club.
Yeah, definitely. We'll discuss that in a second. One thing that I've kind of been keeping my eye on is the starting rotation of the pitchers. Of course, Buck Holtz goes down with an injury. What was that, yesterday? I thought Aaron Nola looked really strong. Granted, he was spotted 12 runs in the first inning, but I think he looked pretty good in his first outing coming back from the arm injury that he had.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Velasquez, although he had the strikeout stuff, he only lasted, what, 4 innings, 4 innings? The pitch count is just way too high for him. And striking out is great, but the fact that he can't go deep in ball games is going to kill our bullpen this entire season if he can't straighten that out. And then, of course, speaking of the bullpen, you have lost his name because he's not that important anymore. Help me out, closer.
Jeanmar Gomez.
Jeanmar Gomez. He's been demoted basically to the 6th inning or 7th inning. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but
Because he's irrelevant.
Because he's irrelevant, yeah, Mr. Irrelevant, exactly. But I mean, the Phillies have been fun to watch so far. There's been some back and forth games. There's been a few games that you can't even tune in, like yesterday when they were getting blown out. The 17-run game was definitely very interesting. But
yeah, that was just being down there. I'm sorry to cut you off, but being down there, it was an atmosphere that I haven't felt down there in years. That was a great night.
It was pretty packed too. Am I right?
Oh yeah, it was a sold out crowd.
Yeah.
I know that when you were in the concourse, every line at every concession stand was mobbed. I was looking when I first sat down, I was looking around the stadium and I saw a lot of empty seats. But if you kept looking around and looking in center field, there was constant flow of traffic. There was a lot of people out that night. And to touch on what you said about Nola, I really liked what I saw out of him. He was making a lot of guys swing and miss, which I feel like he hadn't done a lot of. So I thought that was something to look at. But yeah, no, it was definitely, I know we talked about seeing if he could get back on track last week, and it was definitely good to see him come out and make that first start like that.
I love it.
Well, what's weird is, Nola, just for a second, like when I first tuned on the game, he grew out his hair, so it looks like Cole Hamels, just the way he's like tall and lanky. I was like,
I was
wait.
thinking about that too.
It just like flashed me back for a second, and I was like, no, wait, that's Nola, not Hamels. But anyway, there have been some good storylines with the Phillies. Let's start with Daniel Nava, who becomes the second player in Phillies history to hit 2 home runs in the same game for a new team. That happened in Cincinnati. That was pretty interesting. And then you mentioned this earlier. Andrew Knapp and Brock Stassi both got their first hit of their career, so it was good for them. Stassi, a 9th-inning home run 2 games ago.
Yeah, Nava, I mean, that's a good story to talk about. He's been a journeyman. So it's a lot of people aren't they're just not familiar with this team. It was like the Eagles 2 seasons ago, and we were like, well, who's the face of this team? Like what kind of team are they?
Yeah, I remember those podcasts.
Yeah, so you look at things like this that happen, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a nice piece to have on your team. I think that he had a great game. Don't get me wrong, but I don't expect to see him continue to play like that. But it was awesome for Brock Stassi and Andrew Knapp to get those big hits. Especially in those spots to see Knapp get that double off of Steven Strasburg, who we all know has dynamite stuff. That definitely boosts your confidence as a young guy going up against a pitcher with that pedigree. And Brock Stassi getting that huge hit. I'm happy where they're at this point in the season. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. There's also been one player that I wanted to talk about in particular. That would be Tommy Joseph, who started out 0 for 12, I believe. Had a very good game in the 17 run. I think he had three or four RBIs in that one. But he's a defensive liability, and I just questioned and want to get your opinion on this. Do you think he is the future at first base, or what's going to happen there? He is relatively young, and he does have the power, but he also doesn't have a very good batting average.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who's going to hit for a high average. If he does continue to play every day, I think that he'd be in more of a 250, 260 range, but also be a home run threat. But to answer your question, I don't think so. I don't think he is the future at first base. I think that I think he's still going to be given his chance over the next month and a half or so. But if Rice Hoskins continues to play the way he is, and he got off to a great start in AAA, by the way. I think that they really gonna have to take a long look at him because they're gonna have to add him to the 40-man roster by the end of this season anyway to protect him from the Rule 5 draft. So I would think that they definitely have more, or they definitely think they definitely think higher of him, I would say, than they do of Joseph. I still think he's gonna get his shot, but no, I do not think he's gonna be the guy of the future.
Agreed. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the quick hit segment. One thing I did forget to mention is that now that the Flyers season is over, we have the Flyers apparel on sale for 39. They got 39 wins this season, so we put them up for 39%. You can go grab your apparel at mysportingedge.com/shop. You can go check it out. I know there's a 50-year t-shirt, long sleeve, short sleeve, and there's also a Ghost Bear t-shirt while we're working on some other designs. I think that's going to wrap up the second half of the show. We are introducing a new segment. Mason, our producer, has done a great job. Mason, what did we miss?
Yeah, we got three things. We got Pete Rose will be inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame. Ryan Howard is still trying to play baseball, and the Eagles' preseason schedule was announced.
Joe, which one do you want to start with?
I'll touch on Ryan Howard first. I did see a picture of him in Braves gear. Let's just say it's very odd seeing that. Good for him. I think that he still deserves a shot to play, considering he can still hit the long ball. But I don't expect him to play a big role. I don't even know if he'll make it up to the majors this year.
I was just going to say that.
So and even at that point, I don't know if maybe he is willing to play the whole year at AAA. Actually, I don't even know if he's in AAA. To be honest with you,
he's done.
I would think that at this point he has to be done. But I can't blame him for trying to fight for his career at this point.
I honestly think he's just trying to attract some scouts and maybe make it to an AL team where he can DH and doesn't have to play the field. But it's just weird how, especially baseball guys, they hold on to the career. They try and play as long as they can. I know we brought up Jimmy Rollins last week. I feel like they just have a hard time because they're on the road for 81 games and the season is so long. I feel like they just have a hard time adjusting to real life, and
Right.
it just brings a new meaning to baseball, baseballer for life. It feels like a lot of players, whatever level they get into, they're a hitting coach or they're still involved in baseball for their entire life when they're in the league for so long.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely hard to walk away from a sport that you've been playing all your life. And it's tough when you have these older guys like that. You said Jimmy Rollins. It's tough to see him try to go out and make a team and not make it. I know Chase Utley's still around. But when you look at some of those other key guys, we talked a little bit about last week who was still playing from that '08 team, and it's tough. You don't want to see guys that, because we were lucky enough to grow up with that, the best era of Phillies baseball, and it's tough to see guys who were your heroes struggling to stay on when they really should walk away from the game.
Yeah. Speaking of heroes, Pete Rose is one of the main ingredients when we won our first World Series in 1980, and he's going to be inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame, like Mason said, on August 12th. Joe, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, for me, it's like I didn't get to see him play, so for me, it's just a golf clap. And if I was at the game, I would probably give him a standing ovation talking about that. But as far as me, I never related to him. I know he's had a ton of issues off the field, Baseball Hall of Fame, all that stuff, but he's still definitely deserving of being in the Phillies Wall of Fame because he was one of the key ingredients that brought that main title.
Right, yeah, obviously we didn't get to watch him live, but, I think it's good for the team to reach out and to get that done. I think that maybe helps him in his first step in getting back into baseball, maybe being eligible to get into the Hall of Fame someday. But, I think it's one of those guys where, it's expected that Pete Rose is on your Wall of Fame, considering what he did.
Especially if Mike Lieberthal makes it. Just saying.
Always on burping Mike Lieberthal.
I am. It's my job.
But yeah, no, I expect. I'm sure the game's going to be a sellout crowd, and he's going to get a standing ovation. So, I think it'll be a good day in August.
All right, Mason. There was one more. What was the last point? I'm sorry.
It was the Eagles' preseason schedule was announced. They play at the Packers, home against the Bills, home against the Dolphins, and in New York against the Jets.
First of all, they always finish with the Jets, and that game's a throwaway game anyway. All these games are throwaway games, but I know you and I will be evaluating the talent, Joe. It is going to be interesting to see if the Packers throw out Aaron Rodgers in that first game. Doesn't matter what their record is. We're just evaluating talent. I am excited for preseason because that means the regular season is right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, but at the same time, I mean, the only game I can look at and want to actually, like, the only game I really want to watch, I would say, would be the Packers game. But, you're only going to get one series, if that, out of Rodgers, which, like you said, he probably won't even play.
I'm a nerd, so I would watch all four, but that's just me.
No, obviously I'm going to watch all four, but the only game I would want to watch would be the Packers game.
Gotcha.
Because I'm sure we're going to see some good stuff. But I mean, for me, I like watching the second team units and seeing guys come out of the woodwork, and how you have those guys come out every preseason who you want to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
So those are always good storylines.
Paul
But
Turner,
I'm ready for week one. It's good the schedule's out, but I'm ready for week one.
I'm not ready for week one yet. We still have the NFL draft coming fiercely up the pipeline, but
it's creeping up.
It definitely is. And then we hit summer baseball, and that's about it to talk about, other than the NBA draft lottery, because there's nothing going on until training camp starts. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this show. Next week, we are going to dive heavily into the upcoming NFL draft from an Eagles perspective. We're going to look at certain players the Eagles should take and rank what position is needed most for the team to improve in 2017 and beyond. We are going to take a look at your favorite athlete in Philadelphia. Hopefully we get a lot of interaction with that question. And we're also going to debate, who would we rather have as a Sixer? Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, or Russell Westbrook? I have my answer.
Oh, that's easy for me.
I'm sure you do, but we'll hold it till next week. Great job out of Mason producing the show. Joe, great job out of you. And I'll turn it over to you. You can close it down.
All right, guys, as always, you can find us over at mysportingedge.com for all the latest news and articles and updates. Check us out on all forms of social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And
don't forget
YouTube.
To subscribe to us. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube now, on our awesome new YouTube channel. And I at least I wanted to bring it up to you. I do want to look into getting up all of our old videos up on there, so that everyone can check them out. And
I'm sorry, on YouTube, Twitter?
Yeah, our old videos onto YouTube.
Do you mean our 5 broadcasts? Because there is no video. Oh, you're saying
the old
podcast. Okay, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
We can throw them up there for sure.
Yeah, that way when we talk about what we said in past episodes.
When we looked like idiots back in the past.
Yeah, they're able to check it out. Especially that Chip Kelly episode. That's a great one.
That is.
But yeah, guys. Now that I got off topic, as per usual, don't forget to head over and check us out. And again, feel free to give us a text or a call on the hotline. We really appreciate it. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from get your feedback.
You guys are going to make the show moving forward, so we need people to interact. Certainly.
Right. Yeah.
Give us a call. We love talking to people. It's all we do is talk sports.
Absolutely. We wanted to debate and look foolish at times too. So.
And I get tired of my own voice, so.
Yeah, help us out.
Call.
But all right, guys. Great time as always, and I will catch you next week.